am going to make this like the ultimate colic resource. Care practitioner after care practitioner kept telling me that this was normal and that my baby would grow out of it. I was drowning and the target kept moving. I need some relief now. We're gonna talk about different techniques to soothe the baby. There's kind of two different methods that I'll show you guys. You are going to make it out to the other side of this. This doesn't last forever. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Beth. Today we are going to be talking about the dreaded C word when it comes to babies, and that is colic. And I know that odds are if you have clicked on this video today that you are likely in a position where you have a colic baby right now yourself, or you love somebody who does. I see you. I have been right there with you, and it's so hard, but it is not forever. And my goal is that this video can bring you and your baby a little bit of relief in the season that you find yourself in. I am going to make this kind of like the ultimate colic resource and playbook on how to identify what colic is, some of the underlying reasons that this might be happening, some first steps that you can take to get help, how to soothe your baby through this, different treatment options that you can look into. And so if that sounds helpful for you, then just keep on watching. So what is colic anyway? I feel like there is a lot of misinformation when it comes to what is normal and not normal when it comes to babies crying. So what is considered a normal amount of crying medically is for a baby that is 2 months of age or younger crying for up to 2 hours a day. The word colic is often used as a blanket term for a baby that is crying excessively. So typically if your baby is anywhere from 0 to 3 months old and they are crying for more than 2 hours a day, and you're seeing that for 3-day stretches for longer than like 3 weeks, it is likely that you have a baby that would be considered colic. Now, the thing that I struggle with a little bit when it comes to this word colic is, again, oftentimes we just call crying in general colic. And it's an easy way, I think, for people to not dig a little bit deeper and figure out what might be going on, because the reality is that babies that are perfectly healthy, it is very rare for them to be crying that excessively. Like I said, I've had 3 kids, 3 completely different experiences. And so when my third baby was extremely fussy, crying all the time, I had a really hard time accepting it when care practitioner after care practitioner kept telling me that this was normal and that my baby would grow out of it. And if you are feeling that same feeling, like in your gut, it's something is just off here, we're gonna talk all about that today. So a little bit of my experience and backstory having a baby with colic. My third baby is turning 1 this weekend, and the first 5 months of her life were some of the hardest months of my entire life. She came right out of the womb with a very strong, booming cry. The thing is that that cry did not stop, ever. It was like a 24/7 thing, and I just remember feeling so guilty and confused because I had had kids before. I knew how to take care of babies, but all of a sudden it was just like, what is going on here? Like, I can't soothe my own baby. I would go in for the visits and it was like, she's crying nonstop, and we have tried a lot of things, but it feels like we're not seeing much of a difference. And again, I heard that same refrain of all babies cry. This is normal. Your baby will grow out of it. I had other conversations. I read a ton of stuff online, like so much Googling, and basically everything that I kept reading was like, your baby will grow out of this at 6 weeks. Your baby will grow out of this at 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And I felt like it was this moving target, and I was drowning and the target kept moving, and I was like, I can't wait that long. My baby can't wait that long. I need some relief now. And so it was around 12 weeks that I finally decided, like, I need to get some other specialists involved because this just doesn't feel normal. So I started documenting everything. I made a list on my phone of all the things I was noticing my baby was doing. I was taking videos of certain reactions and behaviors so that I could show them to people, kind of coming in with a little bit of a case and backstory as to why I thought that something was wrong. So I'll read to you guys everything that I wrote down on my phone. She can't be set down for more than a few minutes without discomfort. All naps are contact or in the baby carrier. She needs to be held and rocked to sleep upright with vigorous bouncing. Her nighttime stretches of sleep are only 1 to 3 hours at maximum. We're experiencing constant crying, an arching of her back, intense crying during feeding, projectile spit up, slow weight gain, a lot of tension in the body, gas pain, constipation, a shallow latch, and breastfeeding refusal. You may be experiencing one of those things, some of those things, maybe you're experiencing all of those things, and it is really, really hard, especially as a first-time mom when you don't really know what to compare your experience to. So let's chat a little bit about the underlying causes. So like I said, colic is a bit of a blanket term. Are there some babies that are just more sensitive sensitive and are a little bit more high needs in terms of the amount of care or attention that they need. Yeah, that is true. There are some babies that it's just like a personality thing. They really like to be held. They cry when they're not held. That doesn't mean that there is something that is unhealthy going on. It could just be a personality thing. I will say, however, that like that looks a lot different from the stuff that I was just reading off there of like the visible pain, the discomfort, the gas. And that's why I think it's important to dig a little bit deeper here. I am by no means an expert, but just based on my own experience with colic and also my extensive research of it, I have found that there are like things that are often underlying causes of excessive crying in babies that often do just get labeled as colic. So the first underlying cause is issues around the digestive tract. So a lot of this is just coming from an underdeveloped gut, and this does impact babies that are both breastfed as well as formula fed. When babies are born, their guts and their microbiomes are very new, and a lot of the time they're really just not used to eating the food that we are feeding them, whether that is formula or it is breast milk, and sometimes they're really just reacting to an ingredient in one of those two things. If you are breastfeeding, your diet does have an impact on your baby's diet because your milk is made up of the composition of the different vitamins and minerals and proteins that you are consuming, and so your baby might just be reacting because their gut is still underdeveloped. The next underlying cause is reflux. Reflux is very painful for babies kind of around feeding and after feeding and sometimes in between feeds as well. But it's basically when gastric acid from your stomach kind of comes back up through the esophagus and creates a very uncomfortable burning feeling. With reflux or GERD, the bottom of the esophagus has like a little sphincter. It's kind of like a muscle that connects that to your baby's stomach, and that sphincter oftentimes is underdeveloped for babies at birth, and it can take a different amount of time for each baby to kind of have that fully be operational. And so oftentimes for babies with reflux, they're experiencing that because of that sphincter being underdeveloped. The great thing with reflux is that it often will just resolve over time as your baby does get older and develop a little bit more, but there are things that you can do for it, and I will get into that in a little bit. The next underlying cause of colic in babies is tongue ties. So you can have tongue ties, which are usually either anterior or posterior. An anterior tongue tie are the ones that are closer up to the mouth because it will be closer to the surface, whereas a posterior tongue tie is tucked a little bit further back, and you really do need a good specialist to spot that. You can also have lip ties where the lip is actually very tightly connected, and that causes a lot of restricted movement. And then you can have buccal, I think that's how you say it, buccal tongue ties as well, where there is not enough movement when it comes to the cheeks. You could also have a baby with a high palate, which is something that I had no idea about, but if the roof of your baby's mouth is very elevated, that can lead to breastfeeding issues when it comes to sucking out of a bottle, and as a result, constant crying. What is labeled as colic could really even just be breastfeeding issues, whether your baby does not have a great latch for maybe any of the reasons that I mentioned before, or maybe you have a really strong letdown that your baby is struggling with, or your supply is a little bit low. The next two underlying causes I find are less likely, but overstimulation could be one of them. If your baby is just honestly exhausted because they're in this pattern now of not sleeping, the longer your baby goes without sleeping, becomes harder for them to sleep, unfortunately, and they can get extra fussy in that. And then the final thing that I did hear often, and I don't want to discount because it can still happen, is birth trauma. So obviously if your baby was born in a crazy way and they're coming out, there could be some sort of physical situation that is making them just like more prone to pain, whether they needed to be delivered through forceps or something like that, or there was a dystocia at birth. Some of those things could contribute obviously to birth trauma, but I think sometimes I'll hear like people be like, babies are just like really overwhelmed after they're born because birth is very traumatic for them. And I just like, sure, I just don't think that that is what would cause a baby to be crying like literally 24/7. As a new parent, there is so much that you need to juggle, from sleep schedules to feeding timelines. And if your baby has colic, I know that there is a lot on your plate. And one of the ways that I make my life easier as a mom is by trusting the experts when it comes to my baby's play. And that is why we love KiwiCo. KiwiCo is on a mission to see kids become innovators and change makers, but that starts at a very young age through a childhood that is full of creating and tinkering, and all of that starts with your baby's playtime. KiwiCo has 5 different clubs to choose from depending on the age and stage of your children, and these clubs will allow your child to have access to different crates that are full of hands-on activities that will help your child to learn and grow in their problem solving, their critical thinking skills, their creativity, and more. The KiwiCo Panda Crate is for babies and toddlers between the ages of 0 to 36 months, and it promotes brain-building play by providing you with a crate every 2 months that is full of research-backed toys specifically designed for your baby or toddler's current stage of development. For 0 to 1 month, they have the Let's Bond Crate, which is all about developing a relationship with your baby through play. It's also got a lot of amazing toys in there to help your baby's growing brain, like a tummy time pillow, black and white stimulation cards. When you get to 2 to 3 months, they have the Let's Sense Crate, which is all about starting to use the 5 senses like sight and sound and touch. For babies ages 4 to 5 months old, they have the Let's Discover Crate, which is really designed to help your baby as they start to realize that they've got hands that they can use and they're starting to develop some of these fine motor skills. At each stage of your baby's development, KiwiCo is right there with research-backed toys designed to help you really get the most out of your playtime with your baby. Each of their crates comes with what they call their Wonder Play Guide, and for you, this is an incredible resource as a parent because it's full of research about your baby's current stage of development, what you can expect, some different pieces of advice, and even activities about how to best engage your baby at this stage. Our family is part of Panda Crate Plus, so in addition to our crate, we also get one Grow With Me toy that all of our kids can play with, the toddlers as well from ages 2 and 3, and it's just been so fun to see how these crates have kind of helped our babies build on the beginning stages of learning different concepts or critical thinking, and have just totally benefited them in their play and their learning as they grow up. I personally love the fact that so many hours of research go into each of these crates, and you can tell the quality is incredible, and our kids really do just get lost in play with the toys that they have received through the KiwiCo crates. And one of my other favorite things is the fact that they are so high quality and durable, and I've watched a lot of these toys grow up with my kids over the course of years now. They're still in the same great shape, even though my kids really do put toys through the ringer. And so to make it simple, because parents need simple, with KiwiCo, all you have to do is sign up for the subscription, and every 2 months, a crate of toys that is designed for your baby's specific developmental stage will arrive on your doorstep, and you will get to benefit from hours of play. So if you are interested in checking out KiwiCo, they have given me a special offer for viewers of my channel. So if you head to the link down in my description box and use the code BETH at checkout, you can save 20% off of your first Panda Crate with them. And if you have a child over the age of 3 and are interested in checking out some of their other resources and activities for play for your toddlers or older children, you can actually save 50% off if you use that code BETH at checkout. So again, that code is BETH. The link is down in the description box. I think that you guys will love it. And thank you so much to KiwiCo for working with me on today's video. So with all of those underlying issues in mind, let's talk about some of the first steps that you can take if you are in the position where you think that this might be colic. The very first thing that I would do if I was you would be to go to a lactation consultant. I would find like the best lactation consultant in your city, talk to friends, read reviews, because especially if you are breastfeeding, you want them to look at that latch and you want them to evaluate your baby for any ties, for things like high palate, to help you troubleshoot moving forward. That was my mistake, is going to the wrong person to have that evaluated, because again, not all ties are going to be visible to someone that is not trained to look for that. So midwives looked in her mouth, they were like, yeah, like she looks good, looks like there's good mobility there, breastfeeding should be all right. So I kind of was just like, she doesn't have a tie, she doesn't have a tie. It took me like 12 weeks to get to a lactation consultant finally, an expert that was trained to look for different types of ties and really look for full movement in the mouth. And they tell me that my daughter has a pretty bad posterior tongue tie combined with a high palate. And if I had had that information like 8 weeks prior, it would have completely changed the trajectory for me when it came to breastfeeding. But even if you are formula feeding, something like a high palate or ties orally can influence so many other things, and it can even influence the way that they're able to get milk out of the bottles that you are using. You might need to get a different nipple. You might need to switch things up if there are ties present. So that would be my very first step, is just go and see a lactation consultant that you know is trained to look for ties. The next thing that I would do once I have figured out all of that to kind of optimize around feeding is to bring the midwife, the OB, the family doctor, or even a pediatrician in on this journey with you. Share your concerns. Again, make notes on your phone of what you are seeing. Take videos of things. Like I literally was even taking pictures of the amount of puke that I was seeing from my baby, because I was getting in there, and like oftentimes your baby just is out and they're just happy and they're looking around and you're like, you should see her at like 5 p.m., 3 a.m. a.m. Like, this is not what my baby is usually like. So I was documenting. And when I would go in there, I just wanted them to have like a record of what we were dealing with. And I wish that I had brought more of this up earlier. If you feel like you are being undermined or told it's not a big deal or gaslit or whatever, keep fighting. Like, I just want to say that because I felt that a lot of times and just kept looking for a new specialist that would actually take us seriously until I found them. And I'm so glad that I did. And so definitely keep fighting and keep advocating for your baby. The next thing on my list is making sure that you rule out reflux as being something that is at play here. If your baby does have reflux, there are things that you can give your baby to make that easier for them. Obviously, the comfort level is going to vary from parent to parent in terms of whether you're comfortable giving your baby some type of medication, but working with your pediatrician to come up with a plan in terms of things like dosing and duration are all options for you. If you are noticing that your baby is in so much discomfort right now, that might be a better route to take than just allowing that to persist and kind of waiting for the reflux to solve itself out on its own. But ruling out reflux with a care provider is something that I would do next. For the next things that I would try, I have a couple that are breastfeeding specific and then some that are formula specific. So for breastfeeding moms, I would start making a note in your phone of everything that you are eating and then what you are noticing any sort of reaction to. So just get crazy of writing it all down. I know it is so frustrating because you've just had a baby and the last thing that you want to be doing is like tracking your diet so closely. But if you are eating things like dairy and noticing that day after day, there seems to be a consistent reaction to that, and then you eliminate that for a few days and notice that your baby is doing better, that might be some sort of indication as to what's going on here. There are other things other than dairy that babies can be sensitive to. Caffeine, excess sugar. In some crazy cases, I've even heard of things like eggs and soy that moms are eating and then breastfeeding their babies and their babies are reacting to. So start taking record of all that information. If you do end up needing to bring that to an allergist like we did, that is what is going to be helpful for them in actually diagnosing what is going on. The next thing that I would say for breastfeeding specific situations is feeding your baby upright. That is just one of the first things that you can do, especially if something like reflux is at play or you're noticing your baby's got a lot of gas and discomfort. Using some sort of upright feeding position can help to limit air that's taken in, just make that experience a little bit more comfortable for your baby. So I would often literally just like prop myself up and prop the baby up as much as I could. I would just do crazy positions sometimes, but I just found that that would help my baby be a little bit more comfortable while feeding, which is always great. For formula specific feeding parents, the first thing that I would say is to look at the ingredients in your baby's formula. There might be something in there that your baby is reacting to. If they're constantly fussy or crying or gassy, there is oftentimes different ingredients that babies just don't cope well with at different stages. And so I would try something that is a little bit more gentle on their stomach. There are lots of brands that offer things for those scenarios. If it was a milk allergy, again, there are other things that you need to do before you decide that, but there are hypoallergenic formulas as well. The other first step that you could take if you are formula feeding is to try out different nipples for the bottle, especially if you have got something else going on with suction, latching, ties, high palate. The bottle could be the problem. Your baby might not be able to get enough suction out of the nipple that you are using, and there are different nipples designed for different levels of low. And so with my baby, because she had the tongue tie and a high palate, when I bottle fed her, I actually had to use a level 3 bottle nipple from Philips Avent as opposed to like the level 1 because she couldn't get anything out of the one. She needed something easier because of that section. So you might need to try a different nipple. So before I dive into different treatment options for colic, first let's talk about how to soothe your baby today, because that's probably what you need in this moment is some immediate relief. So we're going to talk about different techniques to soothe the baby. I am going to talk to you about different exercises you can do with your baby that might help some of the discomfort. And then I do have a little model baby here to show you some of the different like colic holds. I think I have 4 that I rotated through very consistently that helped my baby with that pain as well. So first of all, soothing your baby. One of the things that is just tried and true for fussy babies, especially those that are experiencing some sort of discomfort, is holding them upright. And I would say also combining this with some rocking and bouncing. The upright position when you've got gas pain is just so much more comfortable for a baby than laying on your side the way that you would typically hold a baby. So holding your baby upright, but then also that like motion of rocking and bouncing, you're probably going to be doing that a lot, and that's okay. Not only is that constant movement helping to create some motion in your baby's body and movement that can help release some of that gas pain, pain, but it is also very reminiscent of what they would have experienced in the womb. Having you hold them and keep them close and feeling that motion in that rocking feels like home for your baby. And so that is one of the first things that I would jump to if my baby was in a period of just like excessive crying, picking her up and rocking and bouncing and doing a lot of my day like that. That being said, the next thing that I would say is such a game changer to soothe your baby is baby wearing. I would invest in a great baby carrier, especially if your baby is experiencing excessive crying. That will allow you to still have some sort of a life while holding your baby and giving them the support that they need, especially because if sleep is a struggle right now, it's a great way to be able to let your baby kind of nap in the go while you still go about your life. So to save you your sanity, invest in a great baby carrier. My personal favorite is the Maybe baby carrier. It's very comfortable for not only your baby, but for you. You can wear it over your back. It's got great support. And so I would wear my baby literally for hours in that thing every day, just out of necessity. And it changed our lives in that season. So I will put a discount for that down in the description box. The next thing that can help your baby is suckling. This is something that babies are just hardwired to do. They come out of the mouths looking for something to suck. And so breastfeeding is obviously a great way to offer comfort to your baby, not only through the suckling, but also just the skin to skin contact that they can get with you. What an incredible way to just calm your baby down. If you are unable to breastfeed or have chosen otherwise, formula feeding, offering a bottle can sometimes be helpful to calm your baby down as well. If you're finding like, but I'm nervous about feeding times and all of that, it's also okay to offer more frequent feedings with less quantity over the course of time. You don't need to be so stuck to a schedule. You can still feed your baby on demand while formula feeding. If feeding is not something that you want to do to kind of resolve it, or you're like, I can't offer a feeding every single time, I get it. That's why our family opts for pacifiers. So offering a pacifier, if you have not already, is another great way to just calm your baby, allow them to suckle, calm down a little bit, and self-soothe. There are lots of different great ones out there. If your baby has not accepted one yet, don't give up. I would say try out the kit that Bibs makes that offers a whole bunch of different kinds of nipples. I'll put a photo here. You might be able to find one that your baby accepts a little bit more willingly. The next thing that can be super helpful for your baby is just proper burping. I think that sometimes with our babies, we're so concerned with being gentle that we're not actually applying enough pressure for the burp to even be effective. Don't get me wrong, you want to be very gentle, but you also want to make the burp work for your baby. That's why we're doing it. So after feeds, I would put my baby up over my shoulder. There's kind of two different methods that I'll show you guys, but I would have them up over my shoulder, obviously with neck supported, and you can apply a little bit more pressure than you might be. Like this is about the amount of pressure that I would apply just at the back there to try and get a burp out. The next position that I would use to burp my baby is kind of the forward facing position. Now, I wouldn't do this just on the tip of my knee, obviously. We got to use some discretion, but I would make sure that my baby is very well supported, kind of holding from the front of the face to make sure that the head and neck are in a good supported position. And I would just apply some good pressure to the lower back. So those are the two ways that I would burp to make sure that a good burp is actually coming out. The next thing that can be super helpful for babies is car rides. I find that these are things that babies either love or they hate. For some babies, parents will find that it's the only place that their baby will actually sleep. So if you haven't ventured out with your baby yet, try popping them in the car seat, going for a little drive. Sometimes just the motion of the car and also just the white noise of all of the sounds of the cars going by can be enough to give your baby a little bit of a break and maybe even catch a quick nap. Another great thing for soothing babies is a nice cozy warm bath. I found that this was always a great reset, at least for our baby that had colic, to just kind of snap out of it a little bit and relax. So I would often run a warm bath. Some parents even find that just the sound of the running water is enough for their babies to calm down. So try a warm bath. Baby massage is another one of the things that can really help to calm your baby down. It can be a nice moment of physical connection between the two of you as well. It can also be an opportunity for you to kind of rub around where their belly is and kind of ease some of the discomfort that's happening there. White noise, if you have not already purchased a sound machine, it can be a great option to just help soothe your baby. It's another one of those things that is very reminiscent to them of the womb. And the final thing that I would say to try out to soothe your baby is to just get them outside. Sometimes we all just need a good reset being outside. The fresh air, the sunshine, it can be all that your baby needs to just snap out of it a little bit. It can be all that your baby needs needs to get that reset and to calm down. So put your baby in to the stroller, put them in the baby carrier and go for a little walk, and you might find that your baby will finally stop crying and you guys will both enjoy a little bit of fresh air together. Before we dive into some of the treatment options for colic, let's talk about some of the holding techniques that we would use. So I'm going to demonstrate them with this little baby here. I found that this one was just so tense that I couldn't really show you guys the positions. But first things first, again, upright, one of the best ways to help a baby that is having some discomfort. So making sure that the baby's head and neck is supported always up over your shoulder like you would for a burping position is a great way to bring your baby some relief. I really like this position because I find that the shoulder actually creates a little bit of pressure on their bellies, which can help with some of the gas pain and discomfort. So I would often just be patting my baby's bum, having her up on my shoulder like this. Two other upright positions that I would use were sometimes holding my baby kind of forward facing like this. This can sometimes be helpful too if they just want to see what's going on around them, but I would support kind of from the head like this and then just underneath the bum, and you can have them up against your chest, but you can even also bounce them a little bit like this to get some movement in. And this was one that my husband would do all the time with our colic baby. When my baby got a little bit older and I realized that gas pain was something that she was really struggling with, this is a position that, let's see if I can show you guys here, I would often do with her before bed to get gas out in the night. So same kind of thing, I would support her at the head here, holding onto the cheeks, but then the legs I would prop up just a little bit, not like squishing her or doing anything uncomfortable, but just bringing the legs up a little bit, sometimes even bringing them up and down like that, creating that movement and that motion. She would let out so much gas in that position. The last hold that I would do is one that I didn't realize was kind of like known as a colic hold. I feel like I just did this instinctively, but I would take my baby and kind of lay them over my arm. So as you can see here, the legs are kind of threaded through the arm a little bit. I would make sure that their head was kind of supported by like the crook of my arm here at my elbow, but belly just kind of laying flat over your arm and just giving them a nice pat like this, either on the back or on the bum. This can even be a burping technique that you use, but I would often do this with my baby also before bed to try and get out any excess gas before going into sleep. A couple quick baby exercises that you can try. One of them is the famous bicycle legs, and I would never do this just like on the top of my knee, but you would want your baby on a flat surface, and basically you're just going to take their legs and gently create a little bit of movement like this, almost like they are riding a bicycle. This is one that people swear by. Another thing that I would do with my babies laying flat is also just move their legs in like a circular motion like this. That can also be good to get the lower digestive system just moving for them. And then the final kind of like position slash hold that I would do that I found so helpful was one that I kind of created out of desperation, and I will zoom out so you guys can see here. But I would sit on the couch when I just needed a break from rocking and bouncing. I'd put my baby on my legs like this, kind of seated upright with her legs out towards me, and I would just rock my legs back and forth like this. And this one is really nice because not only does it create some movement for their bellies again, but it also still allows them to be kind of rocked to sleep a little bit. So my baby would often fall asleep like this while I just took a minute to sit down on the couch and rest for a moment without having to be up and rocking and bouncing and shushing all the time. So there's no name for that position. It's kind of just like the Beth Moore baby hold, but I found that that was really helpful for calming my baby down. When it comes to colic treatment, there are some things that you could go and get basically right now if you wanted to try them out with your baby that are things that are tried and true and trusted and safe. Obviously use your own discretion, do your own research when it comes to what things you do want to try with your baby. But the first thing that I would recommend for literally any baby, but especially babies that are exhibiting signs of colic or distress, is a probiotic. Probiotics are amazing for literally every human being, but for babies with their really underdeveloped guts and these microbiomes that are trying to adjust to the world, a probiotic can be really helpful for soothing some of the tummy pain. And so my favorite one ever is the BioGaia probiotic drop. I really love that they have an option that has vitamin D in it as well, because it makes it very simple for you. You don't have to be giving vitamin D and then a probiotic. It's just kind of a one and done. The next thing that you can try are gas drops. Basically, gas drops are anything that have like simethicone as the main ingredient. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, but simethicone just helps to kind of relieve the pain and the discomfort from an upset tummy. The brands that we have tried are the Oval drops, and I think the other one was called Boiron. To be totally fair, I didn't see a lot of improvement with that second one, but the Oval drops were something that we just just had constantly in rotation for our baby. Every single night before bed, we would give her an oval drop. They are safe to use. We didn't have to use them beyond the point that she kind of started to get better, but it was definitely in our daily rotation in the early stages. The next thing that you can try is gripe water. I feel like this is one of those things that people do love to gripe about, you might say, but gripe water, like, it is safe for babies. There's not anything in it that I think is going to cause any long-term damage or be like a problem. I think sometimes the sugar content is what people can be concerned about, but grape water can be helpful because I think oftentimes it has the ingredient fennel in it, which is helpful for babies that are having issues with digestion or stomach issues. Do your own research on all of this stuff. Like, I'm not advocating for any of these things other than just wanting to make sure that you know what all of your options are. The last thing that I will mention in terms of treatment for colic for babies are looking into both chiro and osteopathy. This is another one of those things that is just like so totally contested, and I am not going to say like really much of anything on either other than look into it. If you find someone that I will say is trained specifically for babies and for pediatric care in your region, and you find that they have good reviews, maybe you have a friend that said that they swear by it, maybe you could try that out. Same kind of thing with osteo. That is the path that we went for our baby because she did have a ton of tension, especially related to the ties that she had. Going to osteopathy was something that one of my friends recommended. They swore by that. I would say that it was kind of helpful for us. It wasn't like a game changer or anything, but I found that finding some of the different movements and things that I could do with my baby at home were helpful. Some people swear by this stuff, so it could be worth looking into. I will leave the decision up to you. My former colic baby has woken up from her nap and is gonna help me wrap up the rest of this video here. But the last thing that I would say is that in all of this, make sure that you are also helping yourself. If you are feeling frustrated and just like you are at your end, please ask for help, whether that is your husband, your parents, your in-laws, a neighbor, like anyone that can come and hold your baby for a little bit so that you can recoup and recover. It's okay to ask for help. You don't need to do this on your own. It's also just good to know that you're not spoiling your baby in any of this. Like, I think that thought is so ridiculous. You can't spoil a baby. It's impossible. And so know that the extra like love and holding and attention that you have to give to your baby in this stage is not going to have any like long-term detrimental impact on them. That sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, but like, it's the type of things that people say. If anything, the extra love and care that you pour into this season is going to be better for them over the long term. And the other thing is just remember that this doesn't last forever. I know that when you are in the thick of it, it really feels like it will. It took us 5 months for us to kind of solve the whole picture and realize that our baby had severe acid reflux, food allergies, and a cow's milk protein allergy, posterior tongue tie, and a high palate that led to issues with feeding. And so it was just like this crazy long journey, and it really did feel in the thick of it like we would be in it forever and that she would never stop crying. But now here we are. She's 1 year old. She is like the happiest, most joy-filled little girl ever. I know that someday soon it will be a distant memory, and here we are living in that someday soon of it being a distant memory, and stories that I can share and things that I can empathize now with moms and other parents going through it, but not something that we're experiencing firsthand anymore. And so that's my prayer for you too, is that you would know that you are going to make it out to the other side of this, and that you would have peace and joy and strength in the meantime. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to like it, drop a comment down below sharing your journey, maybe even share it with another mom that might benefit from the information here as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. I did also want to remind you that if you're interested in checking out KiwiCo's Panda Crates for your little one, that the code BETH and using the link down in my description box can get you 20% off your first crate. So thank you so much to KiwiCo for working with me on this video. Until my next video, I love you guys, I'm praying for you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.